Next Please open the doorway. In this next story, before taking back to
brothers, oh brothers.
Members of the helicopter crew were Lieutenant Dominic Adunde, Lieutenant Daniel Kuli, Lieutenant Shawanya Mena, Lieutenant Patrick Akufo-Addo, W1 Mark was there, and W1 American. Crew of the first European helicopter are gradually like Kumasi. Ahora vamos a la segunda parte.
for a by now. I go super more. It is a sick how could be a better one.
And it's commanded by ESP February The of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and to join with you here in Kumasi to celebrate the 6th independence of the Republic of Ghana. I am particularly pleased to be here in Ghana following the success of the Year of Return in 2019, through which Ghana extended a hand of welcome to all descendants of Africans who were captured and transported to the Americas beginning in 1619 with the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in Jamestown, Virginia, in what would become the United States of America. We in Trinidad and Tobago recognize our ancestral and historical ties to Ghana and other countries of the African continent. The archival records of Trinidad and Tobago show that in 1813, the census of Trinidad, in which enslaved Africans on the island were registered by region of origin and ethnicity, there were persons in Trinidad of ethnic groups drawn from the land of West Africa, from the modern countries of Senegal in the north to Angola in the south, including the Fanti and Akwan ethnic groups from the then Gold Coast. Trinidad and Tobago has therefore always had an African identity. It should be no surprise then that nationals of Trinidad and Tobago had a significant role to play in the 20th century in the development of Pan-African thought and action, starting from the organization of the first Pan-African Conference in London in July 1900 by Henry Sylvester Williams, a Trinidadian barrister, and continuing through the seminal roles played by C.L.R. James and George Padmore in the development of Pan-Africanism. The roles played by C.L.R. James and George Padmore in the development of the political philosophy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first Prime Minister and President of Ghana, is well documented, with Padmore, a renowned Pan-Africanist, friend and advisor of Dr. Nkrumah. He provided able counsel and support for the establishment of an independent Ghana. It is reported that at the opening of the George Padmore Research Library on African Affairs in Accra on the 30th of June 1961, President Nkrumah ranked Padmore as one of the greatest architects of the African liberation movement dedicated to African union and unity. The attainment of your independence in 1957 under the leadership of Dr. Nkrumah was therefore cause for celebration, not only in Ghana, but also among the nations of the world, which at that time were still struggling to free themselves from colonial rule. Through the formal establishment of relations between the independent countries of Trinidad and Tobago and Ghana, that will take place for 10 years later in 1967, the success of Ghana's independence struggle provided an example of what was possible to those colonies yet to follow in Ghana's footsteps. This close relationship put forward by the United Kingdom and the United States was a resolution which was sponsored by the UK and seconded by Ghana when Trinidad and Tobago was admitted to the United Nations. Over the 53 years of diplomatic relations between our countries, we have pursued shared interests in our bilateral relations and in regional and international fora, including the African, Caribbean, and Pacific group of states. I wish to draw to your attention specifically to two areas of cooperation: agriculture and energy, which build on a history of collaboration between our two countries. The importance of agriculture in the development of a country cannot be overstated, as it provides the most basic and essential form of security for society. This food security also has the potential to translate into income security, as it provides means of sustenance and income for many of our people. Both Trinidad and Tobago and Ghana are producers of cocoa, and cooperation in this area between our countries dates back to our colonial past. The Cocoa Research Unit and the scheme of 1930 at the Imperial College of Tropical Agriculture at St. Augustine in Trinidad and Tobago was financed jointly by several governments, including the government of Ghana. Ghana hosted the first roundtable on sustainable cocoa economy in October 2007, followed by Trinidad and Tobago in March 2009. Both our countries are also states parties to the International Cocoa Agreement of 2001. Trinidad and Tobago has an interest in furthering collaboration with Ghana in developing our cocoa sectors through establishing linkages between our respective cocoa management authorities. Exchanges in expertise and technology, sharing of genetic material, training, joint venture projects, cocoa tourism, and the processing of cocoa into finished products along the cocoa value chain are all matters of interest between our both countries. With respect to energy, Trinidad and Tobago has been involved in the petroleum sector for over 100 years, undertaking considerable oil and gas exploration on land and in shallow water. As the largest oil and natural gas producer in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago's hydrocarbon sector moved from an oil one to mostly natural gas based in the early 1990s. In January 2007, the then Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the late Patrick Manning, announced the establishment of an African Energy Initiative at the 8th Ordinary Session of the African Union in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. The objectives of this initiative for Trinidad and Tobago were to provide assistance to the countries of West, Central, and South Africa in developing their energy sectors, to further the economic development and wealth of the selected states of the African Union by providing free technical expertise in an advisory capacity to assist them in monetizing their petroleum and natural gas resources. Also to assist Africa's achievement of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. And thirdly, to enhance opportunities for South-South cooperation with the selected states of the African Union. Additionally, there have been discussions between the Takoradi Technical University of Ghana and the University of Trinidad and Tobago, UTT, focused on exploring between the two universities the development of human resources and technical capabilities for Ghana's oil and gas industry. Trinidad and Tobago is ready and willing to assist in the development of this new area of economic activity in Ghana, and you will find in Trinidad and Tobago a ready partner through energy skills training and linkages between our tertiary institutions. These two areas, energy and agriculture, build on a history of collaboration between our two countries. It is for this reason that Trinidad and Tobago would wish to enter into arrangements with Ghana as soon as possible for the establishment of air services and transportation between our two countries. This will promote the movement of people and goods and improve the trade prospect between our countries. As I close, I recall that on the last occasion I had the privilege to visit Ghana in 2016, I took the opportunity to visit Elmina Castle, which was used as a facility for the holding and shipping of slaves from Africa to the Americas. This movement of persons from Africa into the Americas brought with it a deep reservoir of culture and traditions, which continue to enrich and sustain us for centuries after our arrival in that part of the world. Trinidad and Tobago, as the first country in the world to declare a national holiday to commemorate the abolition of slavery, pays homage to the contribution, resilience of those persons in its annual Emancipation Day celebration, which have been attended by former presidents of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings and His Excellency John Agepum Kufo. In the same way that Ghana has been present in Trinidad and Tobago as we celebrate our Emancipation Day, I am happy to return to Africa and to Ghana to celebrate your Independence Day with you. As we in Trinidad and Tobago celebrate with you today the 63rd Independence Day of the Republic of Ghana, I hold out to you the best wishes of the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago for peace, progress and prosperity of the government and people of the Republic of Ghana. Happy Independence!
Your Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, our esteemed guest of honor and your spouse, First Lady, Vice President and Second Lady, the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Chief Justice and spouse, Chairperson and members of the Council of State, Your Excellency, the Second President of the Fourth Republic, former Second Lady, Akufo-Addo Asantehene, dignitaries of the Ghanaian and Trinidadian states, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, the Inspector General of the Police Service, Police Force, commanders, officers, men, women of the security services, Nananum and traditional rulers, members of the diplomatic corps, fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen. It was 63 years ago today that our forefathers' dream of independence for our nation became a reality. Ghana became an independent nation and gained her freedom from the colonial power, Britain. The celebrated calypso singer of the time, Lord Kitchener, put it into what became a famous hit. This day will never be forgotten, the 6th of March, 1957, when the Gold Coast successfully got their independence officially. Ghana is the name. Ghana we wish to proclaim. We will be jolly, merry and gay the 6th of March, Independence Day. Today, as we mark this sacred day on our calendar, it is worth noting that the great majority of our population was born after 6 March 1957. They identified that day only through old black and white newsreels, and it might be difficult for them to imagine the sheer euphoria and magic of that day. Last year, for the first time, we took the official celebrations out of the national capital city of Accra to Tamale, capital of the northern region, and a huge success it was. This year, we are gathered here in Kumasi, capital of the Ashanti region, as the focal point of the official celebrations. the happiness of the day is not meant to be limited to the place of the official celebrations. This is a day that should be celebrated by all around the country and by all Ghanaians and friends of Ghana, wherever they are. Indeed, on that day of 6 March 1957, the celebrations were not limited to the new country, Ghana, or to Ghanaians alone. The rest of the world joined to celebrate with us. We were the trailblazers for the independence movement of the continent. We held out hope for restored dignity to the black race around the world. African Americans and the peoples of the Caribbean especially walked tall and cheered us on. It was not accidental that the Trinidadian Lord Kitchener composed the defining song of the event. We're carrying on that relationship, born 63 years ago, by having as our esteemed guest of honor at these celebrations the Prime Minister of the Government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, MP, one of the great figures of modern Caribbean politics, who has given us such a superb speech of commendation and encouragement. Prime Minister and Mrs. Sharon Clark Rowley and members of the Trinidadian delegation, we wish you a warm Ghanaian welcome, a big Akwaba, on your second visit to our country. And we know that you are at home and among your own in your beautiful kente cloths. It is a matter of great joy to us that last year we had such enthusiastic support for the year of return from the Caribbean and the Americas. The Prime Minister of Barbados, the Admirable Honorable Mia Motley QC MP, was also with us last year, and she accompanied me to Yendi to witness the historic performance of the age-old Damba Festival by a new Yana, the first in many, many years, to mark the end of decades of hostility in one of the ancient kingdoms of our land. Prime Minister, we are here in Kumasi in the presence of the Asantehene, scion of the famous Osei Poku Oyoko royal dynasty, Otumfuo Osei Tutu II. There is one thing that any visitor here can be certain of. It is the cultural capital of our country. Kumasi welcomes people from all parts and makes them feel like they belong. It was also the capital of one of the greatest kingdoms of pre-colonial Africa, Asante, whose luster was comparable to that of the kingdoms of Benin, Oyo, Mali, Songhai, Congo, Mutapa, and Zulu. So we are indeed in historic premises and are grateful for the attendance of the mighty Asantehene and the other noble traditional rulers. Fellow Ghanaians, we'll remember today as we should those whose vision inspired the independence movement. We pay homage today as we should to those who dare to dream of this kaleidoscope nation made up of different peoples. And we give praise as we should to those who made huge sacrifices to make possible March 6, 1957. To the members of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, who who protected our lands from the grasp of the greedy imperialists. The members of the United Gold Coast Convention, who first sounded the clarion call for freedom. The members of the Convention People's Party, who brought the battle for freedom to a successful conclusion. And all those who took the fight to the colonialists. We recall with pride and salute the memories of Yasantua, Jacob Say, John Mensah Sama, Joseph Casey Hafer, George Moore, R.S. Wood, Thomas Hutton Mills, Kwamnasiji, James Kwejie Agri, Ni Kwamna Boni III, Ephraim Amu, George Alfred Grant, Joseph Wachidankwa, Francis Awono Williams, R.S. Blake, J.W. DeGraff Johnson, Emmanuel Obecha Bilante, Edward Akufo-Addo, William Muforiata, Ebenezer Akwaje, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwabna Kese, V.B. Annan, Jimmy Kwestase, Komla Agbeli Bedema, Kojobotsio, Kofi Bakon, Kobo Edusei, Nancy Thibault, Mumuni Bawumia, S.D. Domo, Kofi Abrefa Busia, Joe Apia, Victor Owusu, R.R. Amponsa, Bafos Koto, Modesto Apalu, S.G. Anton, Akua Shososho, and Dede Sikisan, and many others. Since we gained our independence, we've had difficulties and stumbled in the search to reach our potential. But Ghana has never lost her position as the inspirational leading light of the African continent. At 63, we know that we have squandered many opportunities that properly utilized would have brought us to the economic breakthrough to which we aspire. We lament, and rightly so, the infrastructure deficits that plague all sectors of our lives, and the considerable number of our people who still live in poverty. But if truth be told, we have solid reason to rejoice and be thankful to the Almighty, for this is a blessed nation. It is a good thing that we are usually so very hard on ourselves, and the critical voices sometimes drown out everything else. For as long as we have not achieved our economic goals, we cannot and should not relax and be complacent. However, we should learn to count our many blessings and not talk ourselves down unnecessarily. It surely must count for something that our nation has been spared the ravages of civil war that have racked some of our neighbors and other nations on the continent. It must count for something that we have been spared the epidemics that have brought havoc to other nations in our neighborhood. It certainly must count for something that we've been able to keep our terrorist activities from our country, and we can take for granted the peace and stability that define Ghana. Our politics might not always be the most edifying, but they are demanding and loud, and all citizens cherish the right to freedom of expression. We are into the 28th year of this Fourth Republic. the longest uninterrupted period of stable constitutional governance in our history. We've had regular, hard-fought elections and peaceful changes of administrations and managed to avoid any third-term maneuvers. That is something for which we should applaud ourselves. We should never forget the development through the democratic process. The path we have chosen in this Fourth Republic is not exactly the easiest governance option. Many of the countries that have made miraculous economic transformations did so more often than not through authoritarian regimes. In earlier times, several of the developed economies built their successes on the back of slavery and work practices that would not be tolerated in any democracy today. Some may admire the results of razing down whole villages and new structures appearing in weeks. But we have to ask ourselves how much regimentation needed for such things would be tolerated by the Ghanaian psyche. Or dare I ask, where would we fit in our weekend funerals to be able to put in 7-day weeks? We should be proud of the liberal democratic path we are treading and unite to make it work. We could and should be able to bring out our people out of poverty and into prosperity faster. But let us acknowledge that good things are happening in our country and we are making progress. 19% of our people do not have access to potable water, but 81% of people in Ghana presently have access to safe water. We are making progress. The supply of electricity has reached 85% of the country. We are making progress. No child has died from measles in the past 17 years in Ghana. Fellow Ghanaians, in our country, measles used to be the leading killer of children aged under 5. We are making progress. No longer do mothers have to sell off their most treasured fabrics and jewelry, and fathers go to money lenders to be able to see their children through senior high school. Today, senior high school education is free for every child. We are making progress. There are more children in secondary school now, especially young girls, than we have ever had. We're changing the curricula and focus in education to meet the needs of the modern economy and prepare our young people to compete on the global scale. We are making progress. More and more people are embracing the need to preserve the beauty of our environment and the purity of our waters and oceans. We are making progress. Some 25 years ago, only a few wealthy people carried mobile telephones. It was a status symbol, and it gave them access to opportunities that few could dream of. In the year 2000, there were 90,000 mobile phone subscribers. In 2020, there are 41 million subscriptions. Mobile subscriber penetration is bigger than the population. We are making progress. The digital revolution is changing the face of our society and our country, and soon will take a deserved place as a modern economy. We are making progress. Always be known for arguments and debates, and in an election year, it is predictable that the decibel level would go up. That is what we're currently experiencing. But as the saying goes, even as the arguments get louder, we keep a keen lookout for each other's eyes. There is an Akan proverb that says, Omeniku, ye kwa, ye kikan wilso, ye ntuasie. When we fight as members of a community or family, we bite off hair, we do not uproot it. In other words, in our gravest moments of fury, we strive to avoid bloodshed. The consensus is holding for all of us to work towards the prosperous, peaceful, and happy Ghana we want. We all recognize that the responsibility we carry as the first Saharan colonial country to gain independence is not simply to build a successful country. We owe it to the rest of the continent and the black race to demonstrate that indeed we can build and run a successful, prosperous, and happy country. This is a task we do not shirk and which all Ghanaians accept. Our Pan-African vision remains on course as we continue to be in the front line of the effort to forge a united Africa. And our peers have conferred and honored us with the duty to host the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We are making progress. During the course of the year of return, which we marked last year, we were glad to welcome hundreds of thousands of visitors from the African diaspora. And we're hoping that the renewed relationship between Ghanaians and our kith and kin from the Caribbean and the Americas will grow from strength to strength. The initiative of Beyond the Return is the vision of a black world on both sides of the Atlantic, which leverages hard work, enterprise, creativity, and innovation to engage in mutually beneficial trade and investment cooperation that will guarantee the prosperity and dignity of black people the world over. I must say something before I conclude about the subject that currently concerns the whole world, and that is the novel coronavirus outbreak. It is a medical crisis that is bringing in its wake death and economic difficulties and is spreading fear and panic throughout the world. In the early days of the outbreak, I constituted on 7th February a high-powered emergency response team to handle the crisis, which has been monitoring developments and reporting to me on a daily basis. Strict checks at our entry points are being conducted with rigorous screening procedures. Isolation and treatment centers have been designated for potential cases, and a quarantine center has been set up. 5,000 personal protective equipments for health workers have been procured and distributed to all regions and major health facilities, points of entry, teaching hospitals, treatment centers, and selected health facilities. Additional protective health equipment is being procured. Training of health workers in the treatment of the disease is being provided and is ongoing. In the interim, non-essential travel into Ghana is being strongly discouraged from high-risk countries, namely China, Iran, Italy, Japan, and South Korea. We're counting on the experts to do their part to safeguard us, but we all have a responsibility to take measures to help ourselves and each other. The recommendations are for each one of us to practice basic personal hygiene and be extra careful with sanitation.
Thank you.